Yo, it's Elut, and welcome to the Daybreak's special episode of my hard mode Ike solo run of Fire Emblem Path of Radiance. This is actually the second version of this video remade from scratch because I had some issues with the original one that I posted over a year ago, but I won't bore you with the details of that here. For this stretch of chapters, I wanted to change the format of the video from a simple let's play to something more scripted and pieced together, because I think Chapter 17 is the most interesting part of this entire run. The purpose of this video and series is to document the challenge run in a video form for possibly newer or more intermediate players that are trying a challenge run like this for the first time, as this was one of the first challenge runs I ever did in my early days of Fire Emblem. Whether you're here to pick up some tips for tackling this chapter, or you just like the sound of my voice for some reason, I'm happy you're here and hope you enjoy the video. Chapter 17, Daybreaks, is a 4-part chapter with no access to the convoy, meaning the preparations for this chapter are just as important as the decisions you make within it. My strategy for this is exactly the same every time. Firstly, I always equip Ike with 4 steel swords that have been all forged to have maximum stats on might, hit, and crit rates. Money is never an issue in this game, so there's really no reason to skimp on any of these bonuses. Leading up to Daybreaks, you can start forging steels beginning at Chapter 14, which means if you forge one on Chapter 14, 15, 16, and the preps of 17, you will have a full inventory available, so don't miss one. It is also important to bring the elixir from the house in Chapter 3, and as many vulneraries as you can hold. We also equip Ike with 2 skills, being Vantage, obtained from the house in Chapter 14, and Guard, obtained as a hidden item in Chapter 15. With this setup, it allows Ike to attack first in all fights with Vantage, and Guard can sometimes prevent enemy counterattacks. This allows for maximum preventative damage when tackling swarms of enemies by yourself, and an occasional lucky critical from the Steel Forges pairs nicely with Vantage too. Along with those things, it is important to pump as many available stat boosters into Ike if you have not done so already. Assuming you have only used Ike up to this point, these are the stat boosting items that you will have realistic access to. 3 Seraph Robes, 1 Speedwing, 2 Draco Shields, 1 pair of boots, and 3 secret books. An average level 20 Ike, after using the stat boosters I mentioned, will have these stats. The Ike I am using in the footage for this video has these stats. If your Ike is a little bit under in a stat or two, it is still doable, as in the original version of this video my Ike had 18 speed and 15 defense, and we still made it out fine. It's a lot harder that way, but it is still possible. Map 1 is a simple route map, and Ike really doesn't have a lot of trouble here. Our first move we make avoids an attack from the archer on the right, and allows us to get a few early kills. As a general rule, it is more worth your time to attack enemies with bows, javelins, or hand axes on your turn, and save the one-range enemies for enemy phase. When the lower enemies have been cleared out, place Ike on the bush tile south of the halberdier with the killer lance. He shouldn't kill Ike even with a crit unless he's very low health to begin with, along with Vantage and Guard making it even safer for us. The mages will begin to move when Ike is 1 tile outside of their attack range. Take advantage of this. For the first mage, I have him chase me until I can attack him on a bush tile, making it so that even if I get hit by the second mage, Ike will live. It is entirely likely that you will complete this map without using a healing item. If you've used a vulnerary, I wouldn't stress too hard about it, but do not touch your elixir yet. I also recommend staggering your save files just in case you need to go back and conserve more healing items somewhere in the event that you have trouble later. Map 2 is an Arrive map. Ike blows through this chapter extremely hard with super steel swords and the boots he got from chapter 15. Essentially, our game plan is to book it to the finish line. The only real obstacle is that at some point he will be blocked off at 2 range by a soldier, an archer, and a bow knight. When that happens, kill the bow knight, and from then on no one else will be able to catch up. You definitely don't need healing items for this one, as it is by far the simplest map in this chapter. Map 3's objective is to survive for 10 turns while Ike carries Leanne on his back and takes nerfs to his skill and speed, meaning our only useful option is to unequip our weapons and find a place to camp out, minimizing the damage we take in the process. Conventional wisdom would suggest one of the bush tiles west of where Ike starts, as there are 4 tiles of impassable terrain around him. This actually is one of the worst spots for him though. On this tile, Ike will take attacks from a Myrmidon who is likely doing no damage to him, a fighter with a hammer who has a shaky hit rate, and 2 mages, being a wind and a fire mage. These 2 are extremely problematic as they tend to have hit rates above 70 or 80 and hit harder than anything else on the map. The next best option is to stay on the bush tile south of where Ike starts. In this instance, Ike will take attacks from 2 Myrmidons that do little to no damage, the same hammer fighter, a new and weaker fighter with a hand axe, and only 1 of the previous mages. In this location, the priest will move to a tile that prevents the fire mage from attacking Ike every turn. It's an improvement, but still not the best option. The best tile is actually 1 space below the bush I just mentioned. Here Ike will no longer receive the +1 defense and +10 avoid bonuses that the bush tile provides, but here he will not take a single magical attack for the entire map. The only damage dealing enemies here are the 2 fighters I mentioned with a hammer and a hand axe, and their hit rates are rather pathetic. Standing on this tile, I only used 2 doses of a vulnerary, and I think the second one was just to be extra safe. The more healing items you have for map 4 is good, and I would say that using 3 vulneraries or less is a good benchmark to hit. If you do use a 3rd vulnerary, make sure not to use it on its final use, and go to a fresh one instead. The Tellius games have a bug that will cause Ike to re-equip his weapon when you don't want him to, and will throw things off. I explained this in another video just in case you weren't aware. Stay mad, Oliver. Map 4 is a defeat boss map, but unlike the last map, our only option is to fight our way out, still carrying Leanne. The maximum speed Ike can have in this chapter is 10, which means there are some generics and promoted paladins that will double him no matter what. Your first instinct may be to hide in the 1 tile wide choke point over on the right side until the enemies thin out, but I wouldn't recommend doing that. By opting to wait around in the early turns, you allow all of the mounted units to ball up, and Ike may not be able to take all of the hits on one enemy phase. What I recommend you do instead is run headfirst toward the bush tiles down south, effectively spreading out the damage Ike takes over several turns, rather than being bombarded all on 1 turn later. When you find an opening where Ike doesn't need to heal, try for a crit on the Bow Knight that cantos next to you. At a certain point, there will only be a handful of enemies left attacking you at 2 range. This is your cue to gun it southwest to trigger Tabarn and the other reinforcements. Make sure you're healed up because the mages especially hit hard. Once you pass one tile beyond the dead trees, you'll see the one and only Hawk King. Now, in the event that you barely got to this point without dying and are low on healing items, run back down south and let Tabarn take care of the rest, because you've done plenty already. In this run, however, my Ike was a few points higher in defense, which makes a big difference, so I decided to take on Oliver myself. Now here you might be thinking it's strange that I would player phase an enemy with Nosferatu, but the AI in FE9 tends to prioritize attacking enemies that can't counterattack over enemies that they can kill. So Oliver at very low health will attack Tabarn instead of killing Ike, letting us end the map with one more attack. So yeah, that is soloing Daybreaks on hard mode Path of Radiance with just Ike. I hope you enjoyed the video and maybe found something interesting or useful out of it. And I just wanted to say that, you know, it really bummed me out with the first version of this video because, you know, 6 months after making it, I got a copyright strike for the music I used in the background. And part of the enjoyment for me making these videos is to bring some other culture to them. You know, I like to pull music and things from other stuff that I like, not just keeping it all Fire Emblem all the time. And it's sort of a blessing in disguise because I think this version of the video is a better one anyways. But hey, you know, I love Ike, I love this game, and I'll remake this video as many times as it takes, and I'll do it my way. Thanks for watching.